So what healthcare has gotten wrong is they're too slow at applying the lessons from the failures, whereas private sector is expert at that. And I think at some point, it's going to take one of these to hit. It'll revolutionize how we engage with patients, whether it's pharmacy delivery at home. You're seeing Mark Cuban play in the cost plus drugs. We're about to go launch drone delivery for facility. And it's kind of this philosophy of, why not us? Like, why not healthcare?
From healthcare IT leaders, you're listening to Leader with Paul Cannon, substituting for Ben Hilmes. Our guest today is Brad Busick, Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer at MultiCare Health System. With extensive experience in both technology and healthcare, Brad highlights the importance of getting the foundational tech right before diving into innovation, and how he's using AI to improve patient care and clinician efficiency. He also talks about leadership, emphasizing the value of authentic relationships. Brad's insights offer a powerful perspective on how healthcare can evolve through tech without losing sight of the human side of care.
I'm excited to get to talk to you today, Brad. I like talking tech and I like talking healthcare and kind of like the Reese's peanut butter cup. I like it when those two things come together. So tell us a little bit more about MultiCare and what you're working on.
Yeah, you bet. Well, Paul, thanks for having me. MultiCare is located in the Pacific Northwest. We're an integrated hospital system, so 13 hospitals, tons of clinics all over the place, 48 Community Connect partners that are riding on our instance of Epic, and lots of really diverse joint ventures, all with the premise of expanding access to care. And so our demographic of the communities and patients we serve, being in the Pacific Northwest, ranges from Eastern Washington all the way to, your Overlake up in Bellevue, which is Microsoft and Amazon and, all of the major companies that we see in tech, the headlines every day.
As the CIO, you're kind of often picked at as the visionary for a lot of different things. But what is your organization betting on in the next 5 years?
The very easy answer would be, we're betting on AI. The actual truth is we're betting on getting the blocking and tackling right. And blocking and tackling might mean getting out of the technical debt associated with COVID. Things like technical health platforms sprung up everywhere. People started putting things on P cards. We want a holistic solution, right? That satisfies many use cases, not just one. We want to get our data right. We actually want to be safe and have platforms that allow us to go and partner where appropriate, but not introduce us to risk because they don't have the technical debt or the technical acumen that maybe we do. And so we're betting big on those things in terms of being able to scale. And that's basically been a continuation of what we've done the last 5 years. And I think that's going to allow us to do a lot of cool things that, everybody wants to talk about, AI, et cetera. But I think without the blocking and tackling, you're sunk.
No, I think that's correct. Everybody wants what's sexy and cool, but
always,
the blocking and tackling is the offensive lineman of the group, right?
It very much is. I think there's such an interesting play around one of the teams that is within IS&T at MultiCare, but it is 100% the offensive lineman, and that's our data orchestration team. So these are the folks that are integrating Cerners. They're doing a data conversion from all scripts into Epic when we do an acquisition. Yeah. They're the plumbing that makes platforms like Workday and Epic come alive that nobody cares about until it breaks. Yeah. Right? And so when you think about trying to plug in an AI solution into RevCycle or even in the clinic with ambient listening, without interop, none of the rest of it matters. Right. And so trying to make sure that we have a playbook for all of that because of the diversity of our space is a really cool challenge to have.
Yeah, I totally get it. On our side of it, I always hear, hey, what are we doing in AI? What are we doing in AI? Yeah. And I just want to say, we're doing the stuff that our clients actually want.
That's right.
Not necessarily, the thing that's sexy at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I would even say, especially in healthcare, since we both, play in this space, I think there's some healthcare shops that actually don't even know what they want. And because of that, they're actually saying yes to additional technical debt because they're chasing things and the fruit may not be on the tree. And the sad part is they don't take a time to rip that tree out. They leave the tree and it becomes a stump and you hit it the next time you're trying to mow. And I would say that a lot of healthcare systems are doing just that. And they don't have the governance, they don't have the talent, in some cases don't have the money to go do this thoughtfully.
Yeah, I could spend at least the next hour just talking about governance, but
Totally.
kind of in lieu of the time, one of the things that you're known for saying is that, home runs are great, and that kind of leads into these home runs, but it's more important to stack up the singles. Can you kind of describe that philosophy around getting those single base hit type of deals? And feel like we're on every sports analogy so far. We got offensive linemen, we got singles and base hits, but
for if my wife was listening to this podcast, she'd say, I don't understand any of this sports stuff. Can you guys just talk business, please? So let me give you an example of a base hit, particularly as it relates to, AI. We have gone out of the gate intentionally with a couple of different platforms, with the promise being this. One, some of my closest friends are clinicians. They just happen to work here at MultiCare. And that was true, but long before I joined this organization. And so I got to hear a lot about the cognitive burden. These systems are awful to use. There's way too many clicks. And so that was something that I wanted to be able to go and solve. And so we actually threw some interop around some of these platforms with the promise of, one, giving our clinicians time back, two, having a more intimate conversation with a patient, right? There's nothing worse than your wife or my wife going in for an appointment and having her look at the back of a clinician's head.
Yep.
Why? Because their back is turned to them while they're typing in Epic or Cerner or whatever it is. So I wanted to alleviate that. And then the third, if we want to scale and we actually want to increase access for more patients, would something like Ambient, is the promise actually there? Now, you and I both know when these things come out, everybody in there, we actually have gone head to head and seen by product, time spent in notes, time spent in charts, velocity of throughput, time outside of scheduled hours, and then an overarching utilization. In some cases, we're seeing up to 25% time reduction in notes.
Wow.
I never get to see this in IT.
No.
So what started as maybe a single, once you get in there, it's like, oh, maybe I can go steal second. And that's exactly what's happening here. We actually think that this capability will go past the doctor. We think it's going to go into nursing. And we're kind of dreaming about the keyboardless clinic, where I come in and say, okay, Epic, I'm here with Paul. He's presenting the following symptoms. Paul, tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
And it does it. We are literally right there, about ready to take the jump, and MultiCare is going to be first.
That's awesome. I mean, you talk about that, and we do internally as well. And you guys are in such a great position to make those things happen because you're at the bedside.
Yeah.
But just kind of the powers of the LLMs and,
it's unbelievable.
It's so quick. I mean, it's one of those things where it's funny because when we talk to our sales folks, a lot of times it's, hey, what are we doing in AI? I'm like, if I told you today, I'd be wrong in 3 months because
no question.
It's moving that fast. That's an awesome story. I do love it. So I'll be interested to see how it plays out for you guys. So
me too. We're measuring early and often because part of what I think needs to happen here is we need to demystify, the magic of this. And I actually do believe it's going to become a commodity. I do think patients will choose to have this because of a more intimate relationship with their provider. Some of the patient notes that are coming to us after we send out the surveys, they're heartwarming. Of, this is the first time I actually got to actually have a conversation with my doctor. This is the first time I actually felt heard. Which, if I'm talking about, some of the most vulnerable situations people are in and meeting people where they're at in even a marginalized state, you want some intimacy. You don't want to be staring at a computer screen. And so for IT to be able to bring that to the clinical community, it's fantastic. One, from a partnership perspective. Yep. Two, it fosters trust for the next thing that we might try that may not have the same results as the single. And so these are all pushing the right way to build more goodwill.
No, I think you're right. And the intimacy thing is super, super important. Kudos to you guys. You spent your entire career in technology, and the last handful of years has been in the healthcare space.
Yeah,
I have spent my entire time in healthcare technology. Again, since you have both experiences, what is healthcare getting wrong and what is healthcare getting right?
To jump to the end of the movie, the difference or lack thereof between you and I is that both of us have no hair, are stressed, and at least for me, I've probably aged more in healthcare than I would have had I been outside of healthcare. So I actually started, Paul, the first day of COVID. So I was in new employee orientation, and this woman tapped me on the shoulder. She said, "Excuse me, are you Brad?" And I said, "Yeah." And she's like, "We need you in the command center." And I got pulled out and joined the command. I didn't even know what that was. The irony was we stood up a command center. We were on the phone with the WHO. I was talking to my old colleagues at the Gates Foundation, and we were all trying to compare notes of what this thing was. And I thought, if you're an adrenaline junkie, which I kind of am, this is a place to go and make an impact.
Yep.
And I will tell you, I have seen some of the most life-changing experiences through rounding, through being in patient rooms, watching patients get to say goodbye to their loved ones on a technology that we provided because they weren't allowed to go in the room because of COVID. I would not have gotten that at the Gates Foundation. I would not have gotten that if I was on the payer side of the equation, if I was at Boeing or Ralph Lauren, or I wouldn't be able to see any of that. And so I will say that healthcare at the heart level, I think, has the ability to rewire you to think different about impact. What I think healthcare gets wrong is it's arrogant. And healthcare is arrogant because we look at these large companies like Amazon, Berkshire Hathaway, Microsoft. If you follow any journals or LinkedIn, we almost celebrate when these companies fail. We're like, well, see, they can't crack it. And yet what they don't realize, Paul, is for Amazon to go lose $4 billion on an idea for an urgent care clinic, that's more than the net revenue of most of the hospital systems on the West Coast. And for Amazon, it's a write-off. They're going to take those lessons and apply it to their next healthcare venture. So what healthcare has gotten wrong is they're too slow at applying the lessons from the failures, whereas private sector is expert at that. And I think at some point, it's going to take one of these to hit. It'll revolutionize how we engage with patients, whether it's pharmacy delivery at home. You're seeing Mark Cuban play in the cost plus drugs. We're about to go launch drone delivery for facility. And it's kind of this philosophy of, why not us? Like, why not healthcare? And I'm wildly competitive. I love taking Amazon out back on this in my own market.
Yeah.
Because our patients deserve it. And they're willing to pay for that on-demand delivery of their pharmacy. Like, who wants to go wait in line with a bunch of sick people for medicine? Nobody. Yeah. So just deliver it to me wherever I'm at. And so we're launching that in about 6 months.
Awesome. I have a niece and a nephew in Snoqualmie. If you're looking for drones,
let's do it. It can go to Snoqualmie. It can go to Snoqualmie, 30 miles.
That's cool. I hadn't really thought of it from that perspective when you say that healthcare is arrogant. I come from a certain lineage. 20 plus years there. Our former CEO, Neil Patterson, was incredible at creating vision. The mantra there was, healthcare is too important to stay the same. But you're right. Now looking back on it, we did celebrate when Microsoft got in and
wild.
Screwed it up.
I would say, I'm watching the Oracle, what I'm going to call the Oracle rebuild really carefully. It's analogous to SAP and Workday back in the day, where Workday was this small little cloud-based company that's now turned into a juggernaut, and SAP and Oracle tried to go rebuild from bare metal to a cloud-based. When you're cloud native, there's just a different level of scale. And I'm watching what Oracle is doing carefully. It won't be tomorrow, but it will be in our tenure where Oracle is going to grab wild market share because of how elegant interoperability and how seamless it is, because it can scale quicker than Epic or any others.
Good insight. Like I said, I hadn't thought of that perspective, and all those years I was part of the problem and didn't even realize it. But you're right. Like
we all might be. I'm pretty bullish on a partnership model. And I say this to our board and to our leadership team a lot. MultiCare, and I don't care if you're Providence, if you're Banner, it doesn't matter, Intermountain. Paul, we're never going to have the amount of people focused on security as Microsoft is, as Amazon is. Or we're never going to have the amount of people that Google has to focus on engineering. why would we be in that game? And so we're very bullish on partnering where appropriate. I think intellectual arrogance will become the downfall of healthcare if we can't get our head on straight here and figure out where to partner.
Well, yeah, I totally agree. So can you tell me a little bit about what's your feelings on leadership in general?
I want to be the kind of leader that I would want for myself.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean I'm always right, but that does mean caring about your team, understanding what's happening in their lives, wanting them to climb as high as they want to climb, make as much as they want to make, even if that means it's outside of your own team. And I don't think that philosophy is shared by a lot of people. And yet I will say that's a very healthcare centric lens to want to protect it and keep it in-house. And I don't come from healthcare. And so I want people to go do what gives them life. And if that means outside of my team, I'm going to help them get there.
Yeah, I love that philosophy. Our CEO here at Healthcare IT Leaders, he's the reason why I'm here, just a good human being.
Yep.
Part of his philosophy is very similar to like you put your needs aside for
That's right.
the greater good. And in the end, it's a weird thing because selfishly, it ends up feeling better for you at the end, right? So
it does. I get a lot of joy. I mean, I think we've launched out of my own team in 5 years, 4 other CIOs. And there's a super cool, back to the sports analogy, I'll never forget watching the show, watching football with my dad. And there was a picture of Mike Holmgren in Green Bay standing with his offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators in his living room in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And at that time, Al Michaels did a spotlight on all of those people that are now head coaches, owners, co-owners. Yeah. And I was like, that to me is the definition of being a force multiplier. So am I sad that I don't have that bench on my own team? Yeah, I mean, there's certainly gaps, that talents and gifts that those people had. Yeah. They're now leading in the same exact way in their own organizations. And I love that. That to me might be the most rewarding piece of all of it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you want a legacy.
Yep.
It's your
tree.
As we wrap this up, I kind of like one of your lines, and I'd love to learn more about that philosophy behind it, wanting more for your team than from your team. It says so much and just such a great little line. I actually want to use it for my kids.
I think this pertains both, professionally and personally. I think just as a philosophy and leadership style, if I'm blurring those lines, that actually means I'm doing it right. And I'll give you a real life example. My dad passed away this weekend, and the first notes that I got were from my teammates. Why? Because they knew step by step what was happening for the last 4 years. The power of being known, you can't underestimate it. And the sad part is most people have never experienced it. And so when you zoom out at a transactional level, once you've had a taste of what it looks like to actually have an authentic relationship with your team, when you deal with someone that's transactional, it's like you puke in your mouth. Nobody wants it. Yeah. I don't want it. No. And as a matter of fact, when I see transactional leaders and you look at the company's performance, most of the time it's why they're failing. And so it's not lost on me if I go zoom out and I look at culture surveys for different teams around organizations. Those that have the best scores have the best leaders, full stop. If you adhere to this idea of wanting more for your team than from them, it means, one, I'm never going to ask someone on my team to do something I wouldn't do myself. People know when you want them to grow. That means if I want them to go get another degree, if I want to go help them do that. And I think people feel that authenticity. And as a result, all boats rise. We go faster, further, and harder. And that's been true in my own journey with my team. And it's why MultiCare's IT team is where it is right now.
Without a doubt. Totally agree. It's super important. Your team's lucky to have you. Well, Brad, thanks again for everything today. Super inspiring on not just kind of what you're doing with the drones. Again, I'll pass you those resumes for
kids. Please do. Great.
But really on the leadership side of it. Again, you want a legacy. It's not about the code you wrote. It's not about the IT piece that you did. It's about the people that you impacted. And as a multiplier, I love that story. So thanks again. I appreciate the insight.
No, thanks for having me. Good to be with you.
Brad is doing incredible work with MultiCare and shares some great insight into the evolving relationship between healthcare and technology. Here are a few key takeaways from our conversation. 1. While AI holds great promise, Healthcare organizations must first tackle the basics, such as clearing technical debt, establishing robust platforms, and ensuring data integrity. Without these critical building blocks, scaling innovation will be a challenge. 2. MultiCare is leveraging AI strategically with a focus on easing the cognitive burden for clinicians, strengthening the personal connection between providers and patients, and increasing access to quality care. 3. Brad believes in wanting more for his team than from them. His approach centers on building authentic relationships, mentoring the next generation, and supporting his team members' growth, even if that means seeing them thrive beyond the organization. What are your thoughts on Brad's approach? Share your thoughts with us on social media or contact us via our website at healthcareitleaders.com.
Thanks for joining us for Leader to Leader. To learn more about how to fuel your own personal leadership journey through the healthcare industry, visit healthcareitleaders.com. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any insights, and we'll see you on the next episode.